Nick Folk said to hell with your tank. The New York Jets win their third game out of their last five, and they are 5-0 against the spread in their last five games. And hey, man, the tank or not tank debates. All I can say is this: is dude, the how bad you have to be to get the number one pick this year. Like you can't even sweat it because the Jets are just never going to be that bad. This is a team that lost a game week one where they scored 30 plus points. Justin Fields plays the best game of his career, and they have a kick return fumble, and they drop two gimme interceptions, and they lose that game. They lose a game because of a goal line fumble to the Miami Dolphins. So you can just pretend that they won those games and lost these last couple of games because when it comes down to it, the Jets are not going to be able to suck as bad as the Titans or the Saints unless they were doing it on purpose. And coaches and players don't try to lose on purpose. And this is without, like, if you were to ask Jet fans at the beginning of the year, who are the Jets' best players on defense? Their two best defensive players. Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, right? They're not here anymore. If you were to ask Jet fans at the beginning of the year, who are their two best players on offense? And now Armand Membu's a stud. Olu Fashanu, after a rough start's been looking pretty damn good. But I think, and Breece Hall's had a bounce back year, but I think at the beginning of the year, a popular answer would have been Garrett Wilson and AVT are the two best offensive players. So the Jets are playing without their two best offensive players that maybe we thought at the beginning of the year. Their two best defensive players have been traded away. They're playing their backup quarterback. You can't suck worse than the Raiders, the Titans, and the who else? The Saints, man. The Jets' point differential is like half as bad as those teams. They're just not that bad. It is what it is, so you can't sweat it too much. But in this one, you want to see them win games, at least in which where some of the pieces that are going to be a part of the future of the team play well. And I'll say this about AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell is a starting NFL receiver. Is he, oh my gosh, he's the wide receiver too. We don't need to draft a guy. No, I'm not saying all that because he's streaky and we got to see him stack performances. And you also just want to have an abundance of pass catchers. But he's a starting NFL receiver. He's at minimum a wide receiver 3. And I think Mechie is at minimum of 4. Arian Smith, FC, we fought the good fight, man. It might be over. Arian Smith was healthy scratched for Tyler Johnson and Alan Lazard as a 24-year-old rookie as we were heading into the month of December. So it might be Jover for Arian Smith, but at least we got a couple of NFL receivers. So you got Garrett Wilson. You just really need, I would say, another tight end to complement Mason Taylor. I would sign Kyle Pitts. Everyone tells me Kyle Pitts sucks. And every time we play Kyle Pitts, it's free lunch money all over our defense. Every time we play Kyle Pitts, he has 9 catches for 8,000 yards. But apparently he sucks. And if the Jets signed him, they would get worse. I'm kind of over that. Kyle Pitts is 25 years old. You can call him a tight end. You can call him a receiver. You can call him a bust. You can call him late for supper. I call him 750 yards. And if you look at free agency, and Alec Pierce is not hitting free agency, so prepare your soul for that. Now, I would sign Kyle Pitts. He can get 750 yards. Don't care. I would sign him. But yeah, man, that's good to see that they got, because before the season started, you had Garrett Wilson, and then you had kind of nothing because it was all 1-year rentals. You didn't know they didn't draft a receiver high. But now at least you have a couple of NFL receivers who are young, who are on contracts who are going to be here next year in AD Mitchell and Mechie. And I am definitely I'm more bullish on Mitchell of the two. Like Mechie is just a solid, I think, possession receiver. I know he had like 3 drops today. It was pretty bad, but Mechie's like a solid possession receiver, slot guy. But Mitchell is a legitimate, like, game-breaking speed, big playability, but also has shown the ability to just run a normal route tree and be kind of a complete receiver. I just think he was stuck in the back end of a really deep pass catching unit in Indy. They go about as deep as anybody in the league, and he was kind of in their doghouse. So now you look at that trade. Sauce got banged up today. I think he's got a calf injury, but you look at that trade, the Colts They're going to miss Sauce for the next few games. Daniel Jones is playing with like a broken soul. He's got like a grade 2 soul fracture. So that he's just playing through, I guess. And Indy just lost the division lead today. And Indy plays Houston again, Jacksonville again, Seattle, and San Francisco. The Colts are not a playoff lock. They're not a playoff lock. So you could be looking at that Sauce Gardner trade, and the Jets could have gotten potentially 2 top 20 picks and a starting receiver for Sauce Gardner. I'm sorry, it's a good trade. And I like Sauce. He's good. People way overhated him, pretended he was a bum. He's good. Quinnen Williams is good. I'm so happy for Quinnen because now people are like, he doesn't impact the game. Like, yeah, he's good. But that's why you get high picks for these guys, because they're good. But that Sauce trade is definitely looking better. Quinnen too, just because he didn't want to be here anymore. So there's only so much you can do about that. Yeah, and the offensive line, Membu had probably his first game where he looked like a rookie. He had a couple of penalties and he lost 2 pass blocking reps pretty brutally, like back to back in the second half. So it was the first game where it was like kind of looks had some rookie moments, but Olu has been coming on strong. Olu had really struggled the first half of the year. Obviously having Tyrod play is just better for them because even like Fields is more athletic, but Tyrod's pocket awareness, that play when Olu got beat by a spin move and Tyrod stepped up and squeezed around and ran for 16 yards, Fields probably gets sacked there. You know, that's just kind of part of it. So Tyrod gives you an advantage there. He gives you the ability to at least evaluate some of these young receivers. Is it going to end up drastically changing the win total at the end of the year? Probably not, but that's kind of why they go to Tyrod. So sure, but Olu has been really good. Tidman's been money. Simpson, meh. Myers, meh. Like, but you don't need that. You don't need 5 all pros in your offensive line, right? You just need nobody to suck. You got really good tackles, and then you got a really good right guard, and then you're like Myers and Simpson are kind of replaceable, but they don't suck. Like, look at the guy. Like, we've seen interior offensive linemen that suck. Those guys don't suck. They're solid. The offensive line actually is. That and the special teams are the 2 units that like actually have lived up to their potential. The special teams is unreal. The Jets might have the best special teams unit in NFL history. If they had mid special teams, they probably would go like 0-17. Man, I don't know what to say about the special teams. It's unreal. Nick Folk, was there any doubt? First of all, my favorite part about Nick Folk, it's kind of like pitcher in baseball where you don't have to be an athlete at all. Like, I could probably beat Nick Folk in a foot race, but they peel him out of that crypt and he comes out and he's got the extra medium jersey on with the gut hanging out. And and when he hit it, he didn't even look like he got all of it. He kind of got it off the side of his foot a little bit and just drills it from 56 in the rain. What a legend. Nick Folk. I wish he was there when we played the Denver Broncos in 2023 with a chance to go to 3-1. But it was Greg Z who missed that 50-plus yarder at MetLife in the rain instead. How different it could have been. Speaking of, Jets are probably going to beat the Dolphins and the Saints and lose to the Jaguars and the Bills, and they're probably going to go 5-12 because when the Jets go all in, they go 5-12, and when they tank, they go 5-12. I think we can at least put to rest the idea that the Jets blew up a dynasty by letting go of like Rodgers and DJ Reed and Javon Kinlaw and Hassan Reddick, although signing Justin Fields proved to be a complete waste of time. So Fields sucks crowd and Rodgers is washed crowd. You're both correct. And really what always mattered is the Jets are going to have to eventually draft a quarterback and develop him properly. And that's all that has ever really mattered. These band-aids are not going to matter. Now, speaking of a quarterback, yeah, they dropped to, I think they have this number 6th overall pick right now. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. They could trade up. Man, I guess it changes if Dante Moore declares. Like the one guy who we know is coming out is Mendoza. So all the quarterback stuff, we'll just have to wait. Like we're gonna have so much time because by the end of the year to the draft is so freaking long. January to April is so long. That's why I haven't done a ton of talking about the quarterbacks and all that because we're going to be sick of it by the Super Bowl. We're going to be sick of it by the Super Bowl. So we still got games left to play. So let's see how these games play, and we'll see where they're picking because they could still be picking anywhere from probably 3 to 8, which is a big difference. They have the ammo to go up and if they want to, they can make an offer as good as anybody else, or they can do the stick and pick route. But the veteran options at quarterback are as bad as they could be. Now, they're never good, but there are years that pop up like where even guys like Daniel Jones, or there was the year where it was Rodgers, Derek Carr, and like Baker, right? Were all available. But this year, dude, the two best quarterbacks who are pending free agents next year might have played today in Tyrod Taylor and Kirk Cousins. So I don't know, man. We'll get to that bridge when we cross it. Defensively, Ja'Whaun Briggs is so good. Ja'Whaun Briggs is good. Tyler Barron, Arian Smith, it's over. We can pack that up. Unfortunately, I wasted a 4th and 2 5th-round picks. It may seem I'm still going to hold out a little bit of hope for Arian Smith that he can at least be on the team and play a role. Tyler Barron, I don't think exists, but those trades. I mean, think about like if the Jets didn't trade for Ja'Whaun Briggs, Harrison Phillips, John Mechie, or AD Mitchell. I know none of those guys are superstars, but those are just 4 more spots you'd have to fill, right? Those are 4 less things you need to spend on free agency or draft picks. So, yeah, but Ja'Whaun Briggs is a beast, man. He's really, really damn good. My guy, Will McDonald, he's a player where I think that you don't necessarily extend, but you don't trade. You just kind of see what happens because he just hasn't been as impactful as he was last year. Remember last year, he had 11 sacks, which he's going to have a good amount of sacks this year. I think he has 7. So he still could get to 10 sacks again this year, which is nothing to sneeze at. He's going to lead the team in sacks by a wide margin. But last year, he had 65 pressures. He just eclipsed 30 pressures in this game. So he's just not getting the wins, not getting the pressures, not as impactful. And his run defense hasn't improved at all. So that's a player where it's tough to gauge the value of that. He's kind of like a Yannick Ngakoue, a long-armed Bryce Huff kind of player. You can't get rid of him because if you get rid of him, you're getting no sacks because nobody is. Like Jermaine, I think we're going to have to wait and see next year, hopefully when he's 2 full years off that Achilles. But he limped off today. You have to wait and see because you saw with Jalen Phillips where he came back from the Achilles, all these like nagging lower body injuries. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Jermaine. But I thought the corners actually had a pretty good day. Most of the stuff that Kirk Cousins was getting was attacking the linebackers, attacking the safeties. Bijan Robinson is he's unbelievable. He's cartoonish. Maybe the best running back in the NFL, but it was just the soft stuff over the middle. And it was Bijan Robinson. There weren't a lot of Brandon Stevens or A.J. Thomas losing a lot of reps. Even Isaiah Oliver, who stepped in for Brownlee today. I think the corner play has been pretty solid. And the defensive tackle play has been pretty good for this team. The issues defensively have been very inconsistent at edge. They get nothing at edge when Jermaine is gone. Safety play is horrendous. Linebacker play is bad. And they never take the ball away. But recently, defensively, it's really a matter of, and I saw it on a chart that just really encapsulated why their defense has been struggling recently. But I can't find it, but I'll basically paraphrase what it said. So it was a chart that was tracking on one axis. It had defensive success rate. So how often does the defense, I don't know how they measure it, like force an incompletion or a sack or no, not a sack, an incompletion, or they stop a run for less than 4 yards, or they do a good play. And then there's havoc rate, which is that's when they force a negative play. When they cause a fumble, they get interception, or they get a sack or a pass defended. So the Jets have recently, the Jets have a very high in their last 6 games, the second highest defensive success rate in the NFL. Right. And I know today the defense was kind of not very good, but the past month and a half, like on 1st and 10, when the other team runs the ball, the Jets are going to allow 2 yards. And then the team is going to throw a screen pass, and the Jets are going to tackle them and allow 3 yards. And you know what I mean? The Jets defense hasn't, since Dallas, they're not really getting run all over. But the problem is they just, in terms of sacking the quarterback and forcing turnovers, they do that at the bottom rate in the NFL. And then they also have some penalties. So it's very frustrating watch, because it's like you're not getting your ass completely kicked, but at the same time, when you don't force those negative plays, it's so hard in today's NFL, especially with teams, they get the ball at the 38-yard line. They're already at midfield with 1 first down. Now they're going for it on 4th down. So it's so hard just to line up and stop teams 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th down. You have to force those negative plays. And that's just where they have to improve. And it starts with making the quarterback uncomfortable. But I think the defense has played less soft. They've definitely played less soft, because there were some games earlier in the year where they just rolled down and laid over and died. Hasn't been the case as much this year. Bijan averaged 8 yards a carry. Wow. Yeah. So the defense not good today. Not good today. And if we're being honest, Kirk Cousins put a couple of balls that should be caught on that last drive where they maybe had a chance to win, but Jets had plenty of games like that this year that went the other way. The GM is doing a good job. Hopefully he continues. Yeah, I think that the trades have definitely been something that have risen Muji's stock. For sure. And I think the draft, Mason Taylor is good. Mason Taylor leads the team in catches, and Mason Taylor the Jets should have had another touchdown. So they call a play action, and Tyrod, as soon as, if he just squares his feet and throws it, it would have been pretty much a walking touchdown for Taylor. But he holds it. I said Tyrod's had that problem his whole career. He's a solid backup, but he really needs to see the guy wide open, right? Throwing it to the spot and letting the guy get there, the anticipation. Solid Fields, Tyrod, that's a weakness too. That should have been a touchdown. Then the next play, they scheme up a crosser to Mechie, wide open. He drops it. So that's another thing with Engstrand. It's like the Jets are doing some modern NFL things where it's like, oh, you got a wide receiver wide open. Because we've seen coordinators where they never do that. Where the last year's Jets season was the biggest example, where they had Devontae and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And Rodgers, not what he once was, but Rodgers, could still throw the ball and read a defense a little bit. And they scored 19 points a game because they had the worst coaching staff in the NFL who could hit no easy buttons. There was no easy buttons. But this year, it's like back-to-back plays where it's like, oh, your backup quarterback made a mistake, and your receiver, you just traded a pair of Air Force Ones who just got here 5 seconds ago, dropped a pass. I like to see some more of that from Engstrands. It's encouraging to see. Sherwood is not a good linebacker. Yeah, I would agree with that. Jets need a stud linebacker. Yeah, the middle of the defense, linebacker and safety has been pretty tough this year. Quincy is just inconsistent. Quincy, you'll still see those splash plays where he's super athletic, but if Quincy's market is similar to Sherwood's last year, I don't see how you can't give out another 3-year, $45 million contract to a linebacker who's going to be 30 years old next year. I just don't see how you do that. And I love Quincy. He's better than Sherwood still, and he's a dog. Love him. Like it depends on what his market is. If he can be had for a 1 year, $8 million deal, then sure. But if his contract, if someone else is willing to make him a top 10 highest paid linebacker in football with 2 years of guaranteed money, I think you just got to let that team do it. And hopefully he does well. It's all good. But you can't tie that kind of money up to a position where they're just not playing well together. Right. And honestly, I would try and ditch Sherwood to Salah or Ulbrich and let Quincy walk, and I'd be fine starting over at linebacker. What's the difference? I mean, you're not getting anything out of it right now. So I'd be fine starting over at linebacker for sure. You're in the Arch Manning camp? Yeah, dude, I've watched so little Texas this year, man. I honestly couldn't even give you a strong opinion on him. I've been tuning into this year a lot of Mendoza and Simpson, um, because I don't think Arch is going to declare. So I haven't really been making an effort to watch Texas. But apparently Arch has been doing better recently. You get rid of Steve Wilkes for sure. I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think. Look, you can never fault the team for trying to get better. If they want to get better by firing Wilkes and trying to make an upgrade, that's cool. Um, I mean, they did get rid of like Sauce and Quinnen, and I think the defense and offense have been both pretty much at moments average to bad at points this year. With Wilkes, you'd like to see, because at least with the offense, there's been like those 3 games where it's like, wow, they score a whole lot of points, right? Where the Brees Hall is getting whatever he wanted, and Justin Fields has had those 2 games where the Justin Fields fan club can come out and say, "I told you he was the answer." You'd like a Steve Wilkes legacy game, right? You'd like a wow, they held Josh Allen to 183 yards and 2 picks. Have we had a Steve Wilkes legacy game? I can't think of one. You like that. And the turnovers. I mean, I get it. Like, he's not out there. He can't recover a fumble. He can't make a pick. But if your team, and the takeaway they got today was on specials. So if your defense finishes the year and you force like only 1 or 2 takeaways, I think it's reasonable to look at a coaching change. But I think his stock has been up the past few games, I would say. But we'll see how it plays out, as they like to say. Because let's be honest, Tanner Engstrand has built up a ton of goodwill with his fan base, but it's a little bit of a trust me, bro. Like, we see some of it today, like this guy gets open, and I've seen the all 22 guys. You haven't seen the all 22. No one's watching the all 22 of the Jets. Not even Aaron Glenn should be watching the all 22 of the Jets at this point. Okay. He should be spending time with his family like you should. Nobody should be up late at night watching all 22 of the Jets at this point, heading into December of 2025 when they're 3-9. No one's seen the all 22. Nobody knows if there's guys open. Nobody knows. So I think the dichotomy in which we view Engstrand versus Wilkes is a little exaggerated, because defensively and offensively, both units kind of mostly have sucked this year, and they've been bailed out by Chris Banjo being unequivocally the best coach the Jets have. Like, at his job, he has to be the best. You can't even really argue. They have the best punter, the best kicker, the best kick returner in the league, and their return units are good. Like, Quantez Stiggers and Austin McNamara are like Kobe and Shaq. Austin McNamara's boots like a 70-yard punt every time, and Quantez Stigger lays his life on the line to make the play down there. It's ridiculous. Yeah, McCrary Ball. What was that? I thought he was injured. I was like, I thought he had a head injury, because sometimes when I don't recall the name of it, but when guys get concussed, they can kind of. We've seen it with Tua. And then I was like, oh, what is that? I don't know what that was. That was insane. For a guy who, remember, he was the guy that Glenn chewed out in the preseason for doing something else stupid. and you forget he's on the team, and then he comes up back in there, and it's like, dude, you don't have the ability to do that. Like, you are a fringe NFL player, dude. What he's doing, man. The unfamiliar feeling Jets fans are going through if this GM lands a franchise QB. Hope to have that experience one day. Yeah, and I really hope, man. I really hope for all of our sakes. Can we just get a dude who like Joe Burrow or even Justin Herbert, who I know hasn't been great this year, but as a rookie, you were like, yeah, that's going to work. That's a 10, 12-year starter. I know that's rare, but I just would be so nice if we could just get one of those who's just good right away. You don't got to worry about it. That'd be nice. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year. I have no idea what they're going to do. But yep, that'd be nice. That's the only way to do it. Appreciate the super chat, man. Yeah. I mean Dante Moore is I don't understand what maybe he just has collegiate goals he wants to accomplish, but from a draft stock perspective, I think he would have as good a chance as anyone to be the first quarterback taken, to be the number one pick. Now, obviously, like the people in his year wouldn't have a better sense of that, his agents and all that. Um, but I think he'd be a minimum a top 6 pick, like between the Jets, the Browns, the Saints, the Raiders. Like one of those teams would take him. The Rams would trade up to get him and sit him behind Stafford because they're a good organization, so they would probably do something like that. But and then if the thing is like if all these QBs go back because next year's class is loaded, well then it's like okay, now you're competing with a loaded class, so maybe you won't get drafted as high. So I don't know why Dante Moore would go back to school unless he just wants to. He likes being at Oregon, and obviously he can get compensated financially now, but still, you get that you sign that rookie contract and you get like $38 million, whatever it is, guaranteed. You know, so I think as soon as you could do that, there'd be motivation to do that. I feel like our coaches are overachieving at this point with our talent. Unpopular take. I wish we shopped around Garrett. I take a first and a second for him. His frame concerns me long term. I mean, yeah, he's a slender dude, but I think this is the first time in his career in the NFL he's had to miss time because of injuries, and he was pretty durable at Ohio State. So I think it's definitely a little too soon to say that Garrett is injury prone. Are they overachieving with the talent? The last 5 games they are. The last 5 games they're 5-0 against the spread. So that's by definition that's what they're doing the last 5 games. Right? What do you think the Jets come draft time? What percentage would you say they trade up for a QB? I don't think that they do that this year. Not that they shouldn't or they should or whatever, or for this guy or for that guy. My completely just gut answer would be if you ask me, do the Jets trade up for the number one pick? My guess would be no. My guess would be no, they don't. I'm kind of all right with how they looked the past month. Yeah, and that's the difference. I think in the beginning of the year where it's like, well, what'd you expect? It was always a rebuild. They were never going to be good. And it's like, no, this is what they should look like. They look like a team that is not in the top half of the league in quarterback play, is not in the top half of the league in roster talent, right? Nobody expected this team to make the playoffs. But what they look like the past 5 weeks is a team that's scrappy and can punch at or slightly above their weight, right? Because some of the performances we saw against Dallas or like, Miami, where it's close at the end, but they doubled you up in yards, and you face the Bucks with 5 practice squad offensive linemen, you get a block kick field goal, and you still, some of those were just not that, right? Where I feel like if the Jets this upcoming week they play the Dolphins, I think they will beat the Dolphins because I think the Jets are a better team than they were at the beginning of the year. I think if they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 5 starting offensive linemen injured this upcoming Sunday, you tell me the Jets are playing the Bucks, 5 backup offensive linemen on the Bucks, and no Godwin, and the Jets are going to get spotted a block, field goal, return, touchdown. I would pick the Jets to win that game because I think now they are just a normal bad team and not a team that was, when they were 0-7, they were trending towards being like the worst team in franchise history. And now they turned it around. And now they're probably going to win. I don't know. I would predict them to win 5 games to go 5-12. Which, man, if you told people they're going to win 5 games at 0-7, I wonder what their in season over under was. It was probably like 2.5. You probably could already made some money on that. Joe Burrow would be phenomenal with the Jets offensive line. You know what? I bet he would trade. Would he trade the receivers for the offensive line? Probably. Yeah, he's missed a lot of games. Quarterback play around the league is kind of down this year. Guys like Lamar and Burrow are banged up. Lamar does not look right. He looked horrific on Thursday night. He didn't look good against the Jets. So he's not right. Burrow just got back. He was rusty. He's been injured. Josh Allen is not like all pro or MVP form at all this year. Mahomes and the Chiefs they're still going to make the playoffs though. They'll find a way, but he hasn't. They're struggling. Yeah, just a down year for quarterback play. I think Herbert got injured today. But I don't think that Joe Burrow will be available for trade. So yeah, Mendoza, we'll see how he does. How he finishes the season will be very important to at least how fans view him, because that's when the viewership is going to really skyrocket. Yeah, they go back again. They just keep going back, and then we get a quarterback in 2029. There's no chance they don't trade up. Well, there's definitely a chance. There's definitely a chance they don't. I think you could find odds on that too, man. I think you could probably bet on that. I'm sure. Build your team for 2026 for a franchise quarterback in 2027. You have 3 first-round picks. Well, if they like a quarterback who falls to them this year somehow, obviously you take him. If they love a QB and there's a path for them to trade up for him, you do that. If those 2 options are not available to you, then you wait to year 2. I don't think and I'm not saying you're saying this, Joe. I'm assuming you're saying this because you don't think there's a reasonable path to get some stud QB this year. if there even is one. But I don't think you build the team just to build the team or because the team is not ready, because you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm pretty sure the Patriots are glad they didn't build the team, bro, when they took Drake May, because when they took Drake May, their team was awful. But they developed Drake May while improving the team at the same time. You can do that. It's perfectly legal. But obviously you don't have to take a QB. It'd be nice. The sooner you could solve it, the better. But obviously, if there's not one there, or if a team that needs one finishes with the pick higher than you and they're not willing to trade it, like there's only so much you can do. So, but at least these are the kind of games where it's like, okay, if you're going to be like this, if you're going to be a team that, even if you have a veteran quarterback, you can win 8 games next year. All right. Because we were watching in the beginning of the year, you're like, holy crap, are we going to take 2 years of this? Oh my God. But at least now you're getting football. We're getting football. This is at least football. Have we beaten Tua? No. Tua Tagovailoa is 7-0 in his career versus the New York Jets. The Dolphins open as 2.5-point road favorites. So you know how that goes. You see, now it's easy for me to beat the Dolphins, because I'm not gonna. If they lost to the Falcons, it's like, all right, you might just have to pack this in. But now they're not getting a top 2 pick, so now I want to beat the Dolphins. I want to beat Tua. I don't want to be 0-8 against Tua. That's gross. I mean, they beat the Saints today. The Dolphins beat the Saints today by 4 points in a game which Tua completed 12 passes and threw a pick. So the Dolphins are very bad, and it's going to be cold. They're on the road. I don't think Tua has ever won a game. There's some stat. Maybe it's made up because it's one of those stats you see on like social media and you just don't check it. Maybe it's made up, but I think Tua, when it's like less than 40 degrees, has some crazy record. Maybe artificial intelligence will know. I'm going to ask Chat GPT and assume that is 100% truth. Tua Tagovailoa's record when it's below 40 degrees is Owen. Okay. When it's below 45 degrees, he is 0-8. It's going to be below 45 in Jersey in a week. So something's got to give. 7-0 versus the Jets, 0-8 versus Hoodie. And it's not even like below, that's not like even below freezing, or when it's like 45, you don't even need a winter jacket. You could wear a hoodie with 45 degrees. Like if it's 45 degrees and you got to run to CVS, you don't put on your winter jacket and gloves. It's not that cold. That's like perfect football weather, 45 degrees. Who's to say we don't get the right guy at QB? Oh, good QBs aren't always taken number 1. Yeah, but I mean, this is just my guess. In this draft, I think there's only going to be maybe a couple of round 1 QBs, and they're all going to go high. So I think if the Jets are picking like 8th, there won't even be a guy to take. And whatever, it is what it is. But that's just my sense on this class. It's not like the 2023 class where it's like, oh, there's 6 guys who are going in round 1. It's probably going to be, I don't know, if Moore goes back to school and Simpson declares, and it's maybe Sellers is but I think Sellers is going to hit the portal. So I think it's going to be probably like 2 guys who go top 5, and then that's going to be it until the rest of the first round. But yeah, obviously the first quarterback taken in a class always isn't the best and all that. Who was better, Aaron Rodgers with the QBs taken ahead of him? Well, I mean, Tom Brady, right? So we should 6th-round pick is what we need, man. You can get Tom Brady. But yeah, what was there? I think Aaron still won the first round, right? He was like 20 something. I believe that was Alex Smith's year that he went number 1 overall. But I think a little bit of that is tough because it was like, well, the number 1, look at all these quarterbacks who weren't number 1 picks. It's like, yeah, but those aren't the same amount of. It's not like there's only one number 1 pick every year, and there's all the other picks. So yeah, all things being equal, you'd want the higher pick, but it's not worth pulling your hair out over, I guess. You know, we shall see. Jake, thanks, man. Appreciate it. The Saints, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is Shook any good? His box scores don't look half bad, but I don't watch the Saints. I don't know if he's any good. Like today, he went 26 at 38 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's got no talent around him. That's not bad. That's not bad for a rookie. I liked Shook coming out of college. That was the one guy I wanted the Jets to take a mid-round flyer on. Now he ended up going way higher than I thought. I wouldn't have wanted them to take him in round 2. I also like Kyle McCord, who I guess sucks terribly. So 1 for 2 there. It seems maybe, but yeah, Shook looks decent enough. I don't know, and the Saints. It's interesting because they took him in a spot where it's a top 50 pick, so it's an investment, but it's not. It's not a the big thing when we talk about who cares where you draft your quarterback. It definitely matters in terms of how the investment you make matters because if the Saints are in love with Mendoza, they could draft him and it's no big deal. But like the Titans, Cam Ward's getting a second year, regardless. When you made him that number 1 pick, and I know sometimes like Jimmy Clausen and Josh Rosen, very rarely it happens, but Cam Ward's getting a second year regardless. That was decided when you drafted number 1 overall. But Shook, you take him in the top round, like you can move off of him and it's not that big of a deal. He could be a backup for you for a year. You could trade him, get 30 cents back on your dollar. And if the guy you take after him is good, no one will care. So that part of it definitely matters. But Shook seems to be okay. Like, I don't know. If you put Ty Simpson or Mendoza on the Saints on the worst roster in football, would they be doing much better than this? I don't know. He's older though, right? Yeah, he was born in 99, which I guess is older for a prospect now, which is kind of crazy. Need a bigger sample size with Mitchell than already determining he's the number 2 receiver. Well, to me, that there's a new rule. We had the John Simpson rule, which means you don't sign bad players to a lot of money. You just sign a player to exactly what his contract is worth. That's the John Simpson rule. Um, then we have the Juwan Briggs method, which is if if a player has demonstrated in any capacity that they are an NFL caliber player and they have at least 2 more years of rookie contract control, you trade a 6th or a 7th round pick for them every single time. Jarvis Brownlee, Juwan Briggs, John Mechie, 80. They're NFL players. Are they wide receiver 2? Are they a starter? They're NFL players. Most 6th, 7th round picks are not NFL players. So if you're trading for a young player who has shown they belong in the league, you move a 6th, 7th round pick for them all day long. I don't care. I'd be fine never having a 6th or 7th round pick, and every year scouring a guy and saying, "Hey, that guy who's on who's Cleveland's like defensive tackle 5, I think he could really be like a defensive tackle 3 and play 32% of the snaps for us." Great, 6th round pick, done. Hey, this guy on the Cardinals, I think he could be. I think he could back up nickel and safety for us and play special teams. He's got 2.5 years up. Good. 6, 7. I don't care. I'll never have a 6th and 7th round pick again. I would do that all day long. That's how I would spend all my 6th and 7th round picks, like Darren Muji has done with those guys just in 1 year. So that's the Juwan Briggs method. Now we also are going to introduce the Cole Kmet rule. Cole Kmet is a tight end who's good. He's solid. He was 25 years old heading into this offseason, and he already had like a bunch of yards in the NFL. But the Bears said, we can't be afraid to get awesome. Or we're going to draft Colston Loveland. But Cole Kmet and his targets, who cares? If he's that good, he'll eat too. They had DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. They had Luther Burden. They signed Zacchaeus. The Bears just said, Caleb Williams, we are going to find out if you are good. Honestly, I still don't even think Caleb Williams is that good. I really don't. I think the Bears have an awesome coaching staff. I think Ben Johnson is still the best offensive mind in the league, and they put a crap ton of talent around him. And they're winning. So what could I even say? But that's how the Jets should operate. So even like, I don't know if that dude Sadiq at Oregon is there in the late first round and you want to take him and run 12 personnel, then no, but Mason Taylor will be fine. Mason Taylor's mother still loves him. And if he's that good, he will eat too. We don't need a wide receiver 2 now because of AD Mitchell. You need players. We cannot fall into a trap. And hopefully the Jets don't, of thinking that all of a sudden we're like set in all these spots because we're still 3-9 at the end of the day. So AD Mitchell, draft Ian Strong. Oh, well, and then guess what? If Mitchell is a number 2 and could you draft in the top of the second round as a number 2, now you have 2 number 2s. Great. Awesome. No problem. And then when Garrett Wilson, if one of them misses some time, then you're set and you're good to go. So you can't be afraid to go from good enough to better, to get deeper, to go from okay to good, to go from good to great. You can't be afraid to do that. And the Jets have very few spots on this team where they're completely set. I would say the offensive line is the closest where I don't want them. I'd really prefer them not to spend any of those top 4 picks this upcoming year where they have the 2 in the first and the 2 in the second. I prefer them not to use any of those picks on offensive line. If there's a guard they love with their second round pick, fine. Fine. That's totally, if they like Gray Zabel, plug and play, awesome guard. I'm not going to complain about it, but I think I don't know. You can run it back mostly with the offensive line. Maybe Simpson is a player you can upgrade over. He's kind of struggled this year, but at the end of the day, the offensive line is not a limiting factor to them winning games this year, so that they can run the whole offensive line back, and I'd be fine with it, to be honest. But yeah, that's the Cole Kmet rule. The Cole Kmet rule has been added. I forwarded it to Darren Muji. Hopefully he reviews it. No, those are Braylon Allen's touches. No, No, if these guys are good enough, then they'll all eat. So you're saying draft Jeremiah Love round 1. Oh, man. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, that's what I'm well, this is exactly what I'm saying, man. Franchise that looked generational Bowers and said, "Now we're good, we have Conklin." Now, at the end of the day, who cares because but it's isn't it amazing how one prospect, like, when has there ever been that much discourse about a non-quarterback that the Jets did not take? I mean, because there's way worse ones. Like with Becton, they missed on I guess Becton worse. That one was a talking point for a while. JSN and McDonald is worse than Bowers Olu. Olu is good and he plays a premium position. So I'd get it if the Jets took a bum and they passed on Bowers. I'd get it. And I love Bowers. He was my preference. I was hoping his name would be called when they were on the clock. But Olu is good and plays a really premium position. So whatever. But so that is all good. But obviously, if anyone's reason for not wanting Bowers is because they had Conklin and Rucker, that is the Cole Kmet rule. Tyler Conklin is the exact kind of player of like you do not want to get tricked into thinking you're good enough there. Now I think Mason Taylor is better than Conklin. But the point is really is you can play multiple tight ends at the same time. So the Jets need another tight end. I think Rucker could be okay as a 3 because what is a tight end 3? Like who has a really good tight end 3? So whatever. But the Jets could use another tight end. I think their 12 personnel could use a little bit more juice. But AD Mitchell is the only, at least at the start of the night game, AD Mitchell was the only receiver in the NFL this week who had over 100 yards. Imagine they draft defense in the first. I mean, if they don't draft a quarterback with their first pick, I think it would be defense. I think it would probably be like Arvell Reese or Ruben Baines or Caleb Downs. Unless they love a receiver because I don't know. I really like the receiver crop that they could get. And it's still a high pick, but they're late one in those twos. I like the receiver option is there. I don't love a safety in the top 10, but what are you gonna do? I don't know. But I think Baines or Reese, I think they would like either of those guys. I wish it was the year where there was a Jamar Chase receiving prospect. Maybe there is. I think that dude from USC is unbelievable. I really on it. My ideal outcome would be if they could take Reese with that first pick, and if the Colts keep losing, that the Jets could get Carnell Tate with that other first round pick would be my ideal outcome if they're not taking a QB. Treylon Burks is a Washington Commander now. Okay, I guess he scored a touchdown. Good for him. Dude, the Raiders are unmitigated disaster. They're so bad. If the Jets played the Raiders on a neutral field, I would take the Jets minus like 5.5. Like that's how bad the Raiders are. They're so bad. If the Browns draft a QB, what would you give up for Shedeur? That's what we need, man. We need Shedeur. You know, we don't have enough. We don't have enough infighting in the fan base. We got to bring in Shedeur. So when the Jets were on the clock in the 5th round and he was still on the there, I believe. I was like, yeah, take him because I think maybe he could develop into you know, a mid to below average starter, and that's better than Barron or Mawanoa. But I I don't know, man. He hasn't done anything that's great. He's better than Dylan Gabriel. So probably the same pick I would have used to draft him, like a very late round pick. Yeah, I did. I love all those names, man. You're speaking my language. And I don't have any deep cuts in the draft yet. You know, after like the top 55 players, I'm not there yet. But all those names, yeah, Lemon, Reese, Tate, Sadiq. And Sadiq he's a brick house man. So he's not one of those, you know, string bean uh slot like a Dalton Kincaid or a Gesicki. Like Sadiq is a tank. Dude, Pete Carroll looks like he is respectfully 187 years old. Every time they show him, I'm like, first of all, can we get the man some chapstick and a glass of water? Like Pete Carroll, he looks like SpongeBob when he like goes in Sandy's house and he's dehydrated. He's like, Sandy, I need some water. That's what Pete Carroll looks like. It's horrific. But yeah, now what do they? I mean, they have to one and dude. I don't know. Are they going to one and done him? I know the Raiders are one of those teams that don't like to pay multiple coaches, but and Chip Kelly was a disaster hire. Gino looks washed, but I mean, Gino was playable the year before, and he's not 40. So I'm going to guess that's mostly a Raiders problem. And they drafted a running back in the first round when you have a bad offensive line. Now, if it's a stud receiver where you're like, oh, we couldn't pass this up, or if it's a stud edge, you couldn't pass it up. You you take a running back when you don't have an offensive line. That's insane. And I think Genti is good. I just think their whole offense is a disaster, and their offensive line is horrific. Yeah, I'll take Kyle Pitts. Why not? Go look at. He's not. I thought Pitts is going to be a free agent. I think he is. Um, so go look at free agency and look at wide receiver and look at tight end, and then tell me Kyle Pitts stinks. Because I guess we're not signing any pass catchers. Because last time I checked, it was pretty bad, man. Pretty bad. Okay, Mike Evans, but he's not coming to the Jets. Christian Kirk going to be 30. Deebo Samuel going to be 30. Jacoby Myers going to be 30. Tutu Atwell, De'Ami Brown, the ghost of Adam Thielen, Alan Lazard. The ghost of DeAndre Hopkins. The ghost of Keenan Allen, who's also not coming to the Jets. Josh Reynolds. Okay. Let's try tight end. Mark Andrews going to be 30 years old. Runs like he's 37. David Njoku going to be 30 years old. Dallas Goedert, 31 years old. So Kyle Pitts is the only competent pass catcher who's like 20 under 27 years old. That's going to be a free agent. I'm telling you, Alec Pierce is not making it to free agency, I don't think. If he does, then he's the number one guy. But if he doesn't, Kyle Pitts, I don't know. I'm not saying get into a bidding war over him. I don't know what his market is, but what does Kyle Pitts average? Like 750 yards a year? I don't know. We could use that. I don't know if he's their type, but I'll say this to Mason Taylor too. Mason Taylor, I thought that his blocking would be much worse as a 21-year-old rookie. Mason Taylor's blocking is fine. They use him a lot when they go max protect to chip and release or just hang in and block for the whole rep, and he does just fine. Mason Taylor just does his job. That is my review of Mason Taylor's rookie season. The coach says, "Hey, Mason, go do this," and then he goes and does it, and he doesn't commit a penalty. He doesn't really commit drops or fumbles. He doesn't really play like a rookie. And I know that Warren and Brock Bowers have kind of reshaped rookie tight end expectations, but he's going to lead the Jets in receptions. I know it's not you can insert the jokes there, but he's going to catch 55 passes for whatever, 500 yards. Like and be a competent blocker and turn 22 at the end of the year. Like that's for a second round tight end. That's solid. And that's in a very low passing volume offense. Chris Banjo fan club. Yeah, Chris Banjo is awesome. Bring back Rodgers and Devontae. Yeah, Stafford's got a pretty sweet situation there. Devontae is a perfect fit for that offense. He's still very good. Rodgers, I think, like the one team I think that if he wants to play another year is the Vikings. Maybe would sign Rodgers because their quarterback play this year is ungodly bad. And at least they could offer, like, maybe at this point in his career, he'd do better in playing indoors more. Maybe that's a spot because I think he kind of wanted to go there this past off season. But it's crazy how they had Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in-house. Now, I don't think anybody saw that coming from Daniel Jones, but with Sam Darnold, he's not making crazy quarterback money. I know he's fallen off a bit, like he's not on track to be an MVP candidate anymore with Sam, but he's still a top third of the league quarterback who's young on a reasonable contract. So that was a whiff. That was a massive whiff by Minnesota letting him go. So, well, he won't do good in the playoffs. It's like, dude, the Vikings don't have a top 30 quarterback on their roster. Talking about playoffs, that's tough, especially because, like with McCarthy is worse than Zach Wilson. You know how I know this? Because Zach Wilson never got coached by Kevin O'Connell and threw to Justin Jefferson and Addison. So JJ McCarthy is worse than Zach Wilson. He's terrible. And that kid they played today, who's like a UDFA, is worse than McCarthy. So that's a tough situation. Rodgers had the last piece of dirt shoveled on him. I mean, the Steelers are kind of I don't know, their whole team's chance of winning games is kind of built on just forcing turnovers because their defense isn't really that good. They just force turnovers. And their second best receiver is like a 315-pound dude. So, and yeah, they're coaching. They're just such an old team. They're such an old team. TJ Watt is old as hell. Cam Hayward looks 50. Rodgers is old. Tomlin is still an awesome, like he's had an awesome career, but it might be one of those spots where he's best suited to go to a team that's like complete trash and has like no culture. Like if Tomlin was available this past offseason, I would have brought him in, right? He's the kind of guy who can get your team's shit together and get you up to like a baseline of competency. Is he that guy who can elevate you to that next level and win a Super Bowl? He's done it, or he's done it before, but can he do that going forward? I have my reservations, but maybe that's kind of what it's kind of like Tom Thibodeau, right? With the Knicks. Like he was that guy to kind of get your ass in gear, but then maybe you might need another guy to get you over the hump. Um, so yeah, but the AFC, there's a lot of teams in that 500 or one game over 500 range. So the playoff race should be interesting down the stretch. The Bengals are still alive for their division somehow. The Dolphins are jarringly on the in the hunt graphic. Jump scare. Dolphins in the hunt. If the Dolphins beat the Jets, they are firmly in the hunt. Dolphins play the Jets and the Steelers next 2 games. So the next 2 weeks, the Dolphins win those 2 games. They're in the hunt, man. They are in the hunt somehow. Somehow, some way. What happened to Brownlee? He had a hip injury. The Jets will end up drafting a safety and some defensive tackle in the first round to be mediocre again. That's probably is a correct statement. there's a good chance what you just said is exactly what happens, but they're not it wouldn't be mediocre again because they haven't been mediocre. I mean, I guess when they were 7-10, that was kind of mediocre, but they haven't been really mediocre since 2015 when they missed the playoffs, but they at least had a winning record. Because even those 7-10 teams still had bottom 5 offenses. So a mediocre would be an upgrade. Yeah, AD Mitchell is nice. The curse will be lifted when I change the play on the chalkboard. Yeah, I'm just never doing it. I'm lazy. I lost the special markers that can draw on that thing. So it's over. It's going to be like that forever now. Are you a team win and build the culture guy, or do you prefer losses? Well, here's the easiest way to answer that at this point of the year. Either way is fine. If they would have, like, if Nick Folk would have missed that field goal or making it, the change in my dopamine levels would have been indistinguishable. To be honest with you, like, it didn't matter. That's why if they root for them to win, because I can't watch a Jets game and in real time root for bad things to happen. Like I can't say like, oh, I hope Breece Hall fumbles here. It's just hard to get your brain there. But obviously I understand in a vacuum, would like say picking 3 spots higher be more valuable than this one win against the Falcons? Probably, but they're just not bad enough to have one of those top 2 picks. They're just not bad enough. There's no other way around it. The other teams are just way worse than the Jets. So I'm not really mad about it. When they didn't get the pick for Lawrence, even though he ended up not being great, he's okay. I don't think he's worth his contract. That I was pretty upset about, but that was hinging on a couple of things. One, I thought that Trevor Lawrence was going to be an awesome NFL quarterback. I don't necessarily have that conviction with a quarterback in this class as much. And number two, that Jets team was a travesty like no other. And you knew Gase was getting fired, so you're not even building momentum for the because the staff is gonna be gone. So you're not even building your culture because that staff is gonna be gone. And two, that team was so much even worse than this team. Like I thought the Jets were legitimately the worst team in the NFL that year, but just won a couple fluky games. This year, the Jets, there's like four teams that are just straight up more ass than we are. Right. So there's no, and the Jets should have won like two other games this year that they just didn't. So like the flips of the coin are going to even out over 17 games. So if you're a super hardcore tanker, I get it. I get it. I truly get it. I'm not going to pretend like I don't understand the tankers logic. I get it. But just pretend they beat the Steelers and lost to the Falcons. Like it doesn't matter. It's all the same. They weren't to get the number one pick this year, they would have had to go, I think, almost 0-17 because I think the Titans have the strength of schedule tiebreaker and the Titans are not going another game. So they would have had to go 0-17. They were never going to go 0-17. Do you think they'll draft a QB in the first round next year? I don't know, man. I guess I would guess they do. I don't think they trade for the number one pick. I guess I'll say sure. I guess I'll say yes. Hopefully Dante Moore declares and Simpson declares, and they have like at least three options. How are we building culture with Marcelino McCurry ball out there? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, there's be a lot of roster turnover. Hit the like button. It's free. Thanks, man. If the Jets won the two previous games, they'd be in the hunt. Yeah, but the Falcons are saying that about losing to the Jets, so I don't think the Jets are. I definitely don't think the Jets are anywhere near a playoff team this year, so I'm not sweating that. But what do you think our final record is going to be? I think you'd put the over under at 4.5, right? Because I think between the Saints and Dolphins, they're winning one of those games at least, maybe both. I don't think they'll beat the Jaguars, who are very inconsistent. But I think the Jags have a pretty good roster, and their coaching staff has come out on fire. And Trevor Lawrence is still better than what we have at quarterback. So, in Buffalo, if they have anything to play for, playing in Buffalo, they're not going to lose that game to the Jets. So, I think they win the next two, right? Don't they play? Isn't it Miami and then the Saints? Or do I have that wrong? No, it's Miami Jags. Oh, I missed the whole game. We have the Patriots again. Okay. Dolphins, Jags, Saints, Pats, Bills. 5 more games. I think they win 2 of them. I think they beat the Dolphins, lose to the Jags, beat the Saints, lose to the Pats, lose to the Bills. So I think they go 5-12. Yeah, they're winnable, but uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess they're winnable, but I wouldn't pick them to win any of these other games. The Jags, I think you'd have a better chance at an upset just because they're so inconsistent, and you can get a Trevor Lawrence game where he's completing 50% of his passes and throws 2 picks that you can hang around. The Patriots, I just think they just never beat themselves. So the Patriots are just I think they're a tough team to upset after week 1 when they somehow lost to the Raiders because they just don't beat themselves. And the Bills, especially playing in Buffalo, that's going to be like a double-digit spread. That's a tough one. Saints and Dolphins, those are going to be field goal spreads. The Jets, Dolphins will be Dolphins as slight favorites. The Jets, Saints, the Jets might be like a 1.5 point favorite in New Orleans. So, yeah, Stiggers is unreal at as a gunner. But I'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you want to hit the thumbs up on the way out, that'd be cool. And go Jets.